Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the Colombian, what I'm calling the model of the 1940 Mauser as made by FN. Going to go a little bit of the history behind this gun, kind of some of the confusion, and we're going to try to clear that up today. But before we talk about the specific model of Mauser, we need to go back and talk about a little bit of Colombia's history. Colombia got its independence from Spain in the 1800s. Like most South American nations, it was in many conflicts with its neighbors over the decades. Probably the most notable is the Leticia conflict, or like the Colombian-Peruvian War. It took place in 1932 to 1933. It cost over 100,000 lives. It's a pretty major conflict that took place in South America, but kind of most Americans don't really realize it. As far as Mausers go, Colombia was kind of an early adopter. They had like an Argentinian 1891 style Mauser. It was their first Mauser. The most widespread was the VZ-24s. They had the VZ-12/33 carbines. They were pretty heavy adopters, users of Mauser rifles. And a lot of these different models influenced what will become this model of 1940. Colombia didn't really have any business with FN before this contract in 1940. They mostly bought Mausers from other countries. Now, this specific model here that I'm going to talk about, that I call the 1940, depending on the book you read, they can kind of call it different things. Now, Ball's book here, when he talks about Colombian rifles, he refers to this model as being something completely different. He refers to it as like the model of 1924, the model of 1930. But I mean, this is kind of an old book, R.I.P. Ball. Now, what I kind of consider the definitive source of information on FN Mausers is Vander Lindens' book here. I think this is probably the best information out there, especially because Vander Linden is very specific to FN guns. He has other books on FN pistols and stuff like that. So I kind of take Vander Linden's word for what he talks about with this gun. Now, Colombia had a contract in 1939 to produce this rifle. Production started in 1940, and these guns are stamped 1940 on the receiver ring. I'll show that in a close-up a little bit later. Now, it's estimated that Colombia ordered about 15,000 of these Mauser rifles from FN, and most of them were delivered, which is kind of nuts because, as we know now, Germany invaded and occupied FN in May of 1940. So these guns kind of got out last second. To me, it's a little surprising because Belgium as a country was trying to arm themselves as fast as possible because they kind of suspected Germany's invasion. And it's crazy that they were making Mausers and exporting them right up until the German invasion. Now, Vander Linden says in the book that I guess one of the thought processes of why these are stamped 1940 is that these were supposed to be like a multi-year contract, and this was just the 1940, and then they would just stamp them later on as Colombia bought them sort of year after year, because 15,000 isn't like a lot for a nation's military. It was probably just like an initial order, something like that for the Colombians. But I mean, with the German invasion, World War II, that pretty much cut off supplies of Mausers from Europe. So you don't really see any exports of Mausers to South America during World War II until after the war. Now, after the war, Colombia ordered more Mausers from FN, and those took place in the 1950s. There's a few giveaways. This pre-war 1940 Colombian Mauser versus the post-war ones. If you're not super savvy on South American guns, you might kind of confuse those. The 1940 stamp on the receiver ring is kind of the biggest giveaway. Also, the crests are a little bit different. I'll show close-ups of those later on. Now, Colombia's Czech Mausers had a really big influence on what they wanted in their rifle when they ordered them from FN. So this is one of the few FN contract guns that has a finger groove. It has this quick detach side sling. The Colombians wanted the ability to kind of go side or under sling on the gun, so it lets you do either one of those. It's chambered in 7mm Mauser too, which is not super uncommon for South American contracts, but it is a really nice caliber. Now, a lot of these were converted to 30-06 after the war. A lot of the guns they ordered later on were in 30-06. So this pre-war Colombian contract will be in 7mm, which I'm a sucker for 7mm Mauser, so I really like that. Now let's do some close-ups and I'll show you some of these features here in better detail. Now looking up close here on the left side of the receiver rail is just kind of the standard FN roll mark that you'll find on FN contracts. Now right here, and tilt this, you can see a little better. This is the really small font. It's just the 1940 stamp, so this is how you can tell it's part of that 1940 contract. This is kind of the most overt way of being able to tell kind of what this is. Now if we look up close, you can see the crest on the receiver here. Now this is a pretty nice crest. It's been filled in here. Obviously, it's not filled in on the original. So these Colombian receivers, they're not left in the white. The bolts are in the white, but the receivers should have some sort of finish on it. And you can see here this really beautiful Colombian crest. I mean, a lot of these South American Mausers, the crests on them are really beautiful. Now this will look a little different on the post-war FN contracts gun. It's sort of a crest inside of a circle. But I really kind of prefer this look, honestly, on these Mausers, and it's a really beautiful crest on this Colombian Mauser. Now here on the right side of the receiver is the serial numbers, and you can tell that the serial numbers are stamped right underneath that on the wood line. So this is sort of a quick and easy way, just at a glance, to be able to tell if this is the original stock for the gun. Now kind of the neat thing about this Colombian Mauser, I haven't seen this on another FN contract gun, is that the serial number is actually stamped on both sides of the stock, interestingly enough. So I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but that's the serial number stamped on this side, as if there would be a serial here to double check it by. But that's just something kind of unique to this. So the matching numbers will be on the receiver. You'll find one on the wood, and then you'll find the matching serial number also on the bolt handle right here. And something more unique to this Colombian contract from FN is these grasping grooves in the stock here. This is just kind of something that you don't find on a lot of these FN contract guns. So you'll find this on the 1940s. And then back here, you will find a stock disc, which again is sort of a holdover from earlier rifles like the Czech rifles. And right here is the quick detach side sling mount. I'm not a huge fan of this location. It kind of is right where you would be holding the rifle from, so I'm not a big fan of this sort of almost in the wrist side sling location. This is kind of what a lot of Czech guns are known for. I think if this was moved back a little bit, it would be much, much better. Now this has a standard sling swivel kind of in the back, and then all the way forward here, just standard sling swivels here. So the only kind of standard quick detach method is here, which this is pretty nice, honestly. It's kind of neat that, you know, we think of quick detach slings as being a kind of a modern development, but I mean, it's a pretty old concept. In the U.S. collector market, Colombian Mausers are pretty sought after. They're kind of up there with like Venezuelan and stuff. They're nice Mausers. Now they tend to be a little more rough. As far as compared to some Venezuelan Mausers that can be pristine. You'll be kind of hard pressed to find a really good condition original Colombian Mauser. A lot of these got converted to 30-06, so you'll find these 1940s even in 30-06 or other post-war FN guns and 30-06. Colombian VZ24s are pretty uncommon. You kind of have to know what you're looking for to be able to identify one of those. So Colombians are less common, you know, depending on condition and stuff like that. They can demand a pretty penny, but I think they're pretty cool. I think this fits really well into a sort of like FN Mauser collection. If you collected Belgian-made guns or FN Mausers or South American Mausers, stuff like that, you know, it's kind of a must-have if you want to, you know, collect one of every year. This was actually my first Colombian Mauser, so it fits that. So I'm trying to collect all the South American countries, so we'll see how that goes. But I really like this gun. I think it's a well-made, you know, it's made by FN. They made really high-quality stuff. So it's a great quality gun. It's a good shooter. If you come across something like this, I recommend picking it up because they're solid guns overall, and kind of a neat history to it, I think. Kind of a little bit underappreciated by a lot of South American history in general. But I think it's pretty cool. So I definitely recommend picking one of these up. I know I probably look tired. I don't get much sleep nowadays with 2 kids. This is my first long form video as a dad of 2. It's getting increasingly more difficult, but I'm going to keep trying to put these videos out for you guys We're going to keep doing the podcasts, and I'm going to do shorts when I can and long forms when I can. So thanks for sticking around. If you want to be part of our Discord, you have to hop over onto Patreon and sign up there, and then we'll give you a link to Discord. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time.